All right. Make sure, yep, we got a live button up there, so we're good. All right.
All right.
Hey, everybody. This is my friend Mike Sparks. He's running for office. And what I wanted to do was bring him on, introduce him to you guys. He's in a tough race right now. I think it's tough. I don't know. I haven't looked at the polling numbers. Maybe Mike knows them. We'll ask him in a second. But I wanted to introduce him because it is a tough race. It's an important race. What I think's interesting about your race is the district, how it stretches out. I mean, you've got parts of Murfreesboro, parts of Smyrna, and I believe even parts of Laverne.
I've got a lot of Laverne too.
Yeah. So when you think about Rutherford County, I mean, Mike's got to have his finger on the pulse for a lot of different areas.
Yeah.
So, Mike, my first question that I like to ask is, what do you do for a living?
Well, my background is a little multifaceted. Coming out of high school, I worked at Whirlpool factory, went to college at night, but it was difficult. Started my first business at 21. I had a fitness center.
Okay.
And I saved $10,000 at that time, and my dad loaned me $10,000.
Okay. What year was this?
This was 1989.
Okay, so $10,000 is a lot of money.
It was a lot of money. And I had saved that. I was kind
Still
of proud.
is.
Yes, because I was just, I was always speculating, buying and selling. Buying and selling cars, motorcycles, boats at the time. And I saved that money, and I paid my dad back. I had the business for a couple of years.
Okay.
Next thing you know, I was getting married, and I had a child on the way, and then I was buying my first home at 22.
Wow.
And it was really challenging.
You grew up fast.
Well, I did, and it was a great experience. But the problem that I had to manage being married at 22, and then having two kids, another one on the way after that.
Wow.
And then I had a business, and then I was working 40 hours a week. Whew. So I had to choose between being married and two kids or my business and full-time job. So, naturally I chose the wife after 29 years, thank God.
She is beautiful.
She is. And she stood by me through all these years, because politics isn't easy. It's not easy for your spouse.
Sure.
But, then I went to work for Coca-Cola, done sales for Coca-Cola.
Okay.
And one of the things I was kind of proud of at Coca-Cola, I probably had the most efficient route. I was probably the fastest guy they had. But, in working in the factory and you're in a fast-paced environment, and that's why I'm probably as quick as I am now. And I'm always looking for efficiencies. Like just now I called you.
Yeah.
What's the fastest way to get to you?
Right.
You know what I mean? I don't want to go a mile out of the way. So I'm always trying to streamline things, and I think I bring that to the table in the General Assembly. Because when I see waste of taxpayers' money, and I see waste, believe me, I see a lot of waste, then I try to do what I can to try to stop it. But then I went to work for Nissan. Nissan was good to me, and I did. It was good to me. But I tell you,
how long did you work at Nissan?
Worked there 8 years.
8 years. Okay.
And I can tell you, Gabriel, I prayed probably every day to leave the factory.
Oh, wow.
I prayed every day.
Yeah.
But I was trying to go to college. I was working nights. I was trying to go into TSU. And it
still
was
raising a
difficult.
family.
Yeah, still raising a family. I had a jet ski rental business on the side.
Okay.
Later, in my late 20s. And working in the factory, it was difficult to try to go to school.
Sure.
Because if anybody's ever worked night shift, it's challenging. It was really challenging. Then I went to day shift, and then I started my own business. I wanted to start a car business. And one thing that I know I sound like Al Gore when I say this, but I probably sold the first car on the internet back in the 90s.
Wow.
Now, no one could ever disprove me, but it was a red Jaguar. It was a 93 red Jaguar XJS convertible. And a dealer had it for a year, and I wanted to take my wife to her high school reunion in it. And he had it for a year, and I remember his son, who used to come to my gym, and you know how guys are when you're young in your 20s, they're kind of cutting up all the time.
Sure.
Like, you can't sell a car. He said, we can't sell. We've had it a year. And I tell you, I've got a strong religious faith, and I prayed over that car. I laid hands on that car, and I borrowed $18,000 from the bank, and paid $18,000 for that car, and I sold it in 19 days. And,
wow.
But I thought, what is that dealer not doing right? He was a sharp dealer. He was probably the sharpest guy in Rutherford County. And I thought, Smyrna's not the marketplace to sell this car.
No, of course not. Right.
And I sold to an executive out of I think it was Massachusetts, and I met him in North Carolina. And I drove out there with my sister, Vicky. She rode out there with me. We dropped the car off, and we rented a car back to come back. And you've probably seen where my sister is fallen and hit her head. And she's been in a coma for about 6 months, and she's awake now, but she's still, it's like dealing with a 5-year-old, which I know it's another issue.
Right.
But my sister, every time, like I've done a couple of speculative deals. I drove to Wyoming 2 years ago on a deal that I've done, and that was very stepping out driving to Wyoming, and it was probably the best deal I ever done, pound for pound.
Wow.
But the Business Journal featured that because my car business was the first .com car company in the state of Tennessee.
Okay.
Take a domain name and use it.
Okay.
And the state of Tennessee had told me, they said, you can't do that. And I said, why can't I? And they said, because it's never been done before. And that's what they'll tell you.
Sure.
So I said, well, that's not a reason to stop me. That's why we did it. And we were selling a lot of cars on the internet, and we were using video and that sort of thing. Before, pretty much other dealers were even using video and advertising. But the car business, it's a very tiring business. It is very demanding. Cash for Clunkers really took good cars off the road. Another government scheme.
Sure.
Another reason I get upset with government is because of the schemes I see sometimes. And I really prayed about that car business, and I wanted to get it sold. And I sold it after 12 years. And I done really good on the real estate.
Okay.
And I had another business next door, and Spooley's Hair Salon, and I felt like the Lord told me to sell it.
Okay.
And I sold it. People didn't think I could sell it during a recession, and I got top dollar for it.
Nice.
And thank God for it. We still got one salon back in Smyrna.
Don't be getting in real estate. Call me instead.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about that off the air, and I know, like you were saying, it's going to be hard to kind of keep me in the lanes,
Sure.
with things going on and stuff that I see, because I'm pretty passionate about issues and stuff. But
So where are you from originally?
I was born and raised in Smyrna.
Okay.
And, a lot of folks in Smyrna that have been there that are native Smyrna, their fathers served at the Air Force Base, Seward Air Force Base.
Okay.
I was born out there at the base, and
Did your dad serve out
yeah,
there?
my dad was
Okay.
in World War II,
All right.
and he flew 24 bombing raids over Germany.
Oh, wow.
B-17, and
my.
I was told by a Smyrna councilman that my father was the meanest man in Smyrna, and he was mean. My dad was a hard liner. You just didn't get out of line.
Sure.
You had to.
Is
go
that
by
why
the
you're a
rules.
hard worker?
Well, I think some of that's played into it, but my dad was overbearing,
Right.
and I do think that guys like me that have had tough relationships with their dad,
Yeah.
I think that psychologically it affects us some. Because
Sure.
my dad's one of them kind of guys. You never could get approval from him.
Okay.
You just had to work,
Yeah. Yeah.
and no matter what you did, you can't
It was
get
never
approval.
good enough.
It never was good enough, and I think that's why I care about these young men and young women that their dad's not in their lives.
Sure.
But fortunately, I had a father in my life
Yeah.
that was a hardliner. But I can remember going to visit him. They divorced when I was about 2,
Okay.
and my dad was a real principled guy.
Mhm.
It was just black or white. There was no middle ground. And life's not that way. People
No.
make mistakes. People slip up. And my dad, he wasn't really a forgiving type guy. But he did help me. He helped me get started with my first car. The
Okay.
first car I sold was a '69 Camaro. Bought it when I was 15. And he did help me with my
Wow.
first vehicle. He said, "I'm gonna get your first vehicle." And I think he had $500 in it. He
Yeah.
bartered for it. That's
Right.
I wrote a book, learned to barter.
Sure. Yeah.
That's probably where I get some of my car stuff and bartered from my dad.
Okay.
And I worked at the Omni Hut,
All right.
saving, working for $1.50 an hour, saving money to paint that '69 Camaro. And I had the nice wheels and a nice paint job. And I sold that, and done real good on it for, I think it was 16 when I sold it. And I made $1,000. That was a lot of money for a 16.
Sure. You're working for $1.50 an hour.
Back
That's-
then.
Making $1,000 is big.
But he was a hard liner. But what was cool when you look at the father figure in society, we see that kind of diminishing. We see it diminishing in Hollywood, and I think it's a big issue. And I run a resolution this year trying to bring awareness
Right.
to what I call the fatherless epidemic that we see in our culture, and it does have ramifications to our society. But the neat thing is, I had a stepdad that was a doctor of pharmacy, very
Okay.
professional. He was a state investigator for the Board of Pharmacy for 25 years. Sadly, he passed last year. He would have turned 90.
Oh, wow.
And he did the investigative work on, I guess the guy's nickname was Dr. K. He's the one that overprescribed Jerry Lee Lewis and Elvis Presley.
Wow.
So I didn't know that till later, that someone told me that my stepfather was involved in that.
Huh.
But he also started the first Walgreens in 1955 at Green Hills. And I've heard his stories. In fact, I captured him on YouTube. If you typed in YouTube Dr. William Chance, you'll see a man in a nursing home. That was my stepdad. So I got him to share some of his story. But the neat thing, growing up, I used to think that was a handicap, my dad being so hard. And really, when you look back in life, and you don't really gain a lot of wisdom and insight till you get older, and then you look back and what you thought was adversity really was an opportunity,
Sure.
was really a blessing.
Something, right.
And
It
I've
is
seen
nice.
that. Yeah, and my stepdad, he always would encourage me to get involved in Toastmasters,
Mhm.
to go to Dale Carnegie.
Oh, wow.
Now, my real father he was the one teaching you how to work on a car,
Sure.
how to wheel and deal. So I kind of had both elements.
Wow.
Really, it's a blessing.
Yeah,
you know?
totally. Now,
And,
especially now as you look back on it.
Oh yeah, and it put passion. I've got a couple of young guys that I'm kind of, I guess you say, mentoring now.
Mm-hmm.
That hopefully they're listening to me. But I'm proud of that resolution. If you look at, in fact, the young man made that video for me. He was a TSU student, just graduated TSU 2 months ago. He reached out to me, asked me for advice. Come to find out, he voted for Donald Trump. This
Wow.
TSU student.
Okay.
He showed me, he showed me. Well, he's in the paper at TSU.
Yeah. Okay.
He said, "Why I voted for Donald Trump."
Oh, wow.
And
So
Marvin
he had it himself.
Williamson. Yeah, I'm real
Right.
proud of
Yeah.
a young guy, but he's the one that helped me work on that video. If you go to YouTube,
Okay.
type in "fatherless epidemic,"
I'll post that in the show
yes,
notes.
and you'll
so
see a
people can
picture
find
of the state capitol.
it. Okay.
The two black lawmakers that speak up in there, they're the same black lawmakers that gave me a hard time about my history resolution
Sure.
that talked about the first black lawmaker, Samson Keeble,
Okay.
and talked about Nathan Bedford Forrest,
Mm-hmm.
probably the most controversial figure in state politics. But the story is never told that Forrest ended up advocating for African Americans.
Right.
No, they end up censoring that.
Sure.
But when I talked to him about history, he even told me that he's from Memphis. He even told me, he said, "Rep, sometimes I think they don't want us to know these things." And so, anyways, but here we are segueing off other subjects.
Right.
I'm trying to stay focused.
No problem. No problem.
A lot of
So
things
you
going
mentioned earlier you bought your first house very young. How old were you? when you bought
22.
it? 22.
22.
Wow.
Mhm.
Do you remember anything about the house? Is it still around?
Well, what I did, it's our business.
Okay.
Yeah, my
All right.
business,
So you,
yeah.
okay. Well, so you did very well about
Yeah, what I
that.
did, I had my red '68 Camaro, and I sold the '69. I always liked Camaros. And my dad did buy that next one. He bought it and let me pay him back.
Okay.
And to be honest with you, I think he marked the car up. I think he did.
You think
And I'm not gonna
$50
argue. Yeah, I
on it.
think he did. But he did note it to me.
Sure.
So he had a little book. And I still had that book somewhere. And if my dad bought me, if he knew I needed a 10 millimeter deep well socket, he would find one.
Right.
And if it was $1, he'd put it in the book. And
I
I had
see.
to pay him back every
Right.
week.
Yeah. Right.
I can remember when we were just married, times were so tough on us, raising kids. I can remember going to my dad, and I remember taking my watch and a watch that I had, and I said, "Dad, will you loan me $20
Wow.
for baby formula?"
Right.
Because we didn't have the money,
Sure.
and we had to go buy the baby formula. And that only happened a few times, but when we were down, just we did what we had to do to make ends meet.
Of course.
But that house, I set a goal that I was going to look at 20 homes. I'm the customer that you don't want. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I tell you what I did. I prayed about it. I said, "Lord, give me direction on what I need to buy." And I said, one day this house will be zone commercial. And I was just 22. And there's a lot of Debbie Downers in this world. I
Sure.
face it in politics. You face it. We all face it. Don't let the Debbie Downers get you down. And they were like, "Oh, nothing's going to happen over here. Nothing's going to happen." And now it's our business. We were over there just day before yesterday. I was cleaning the gutters. I was trimming the bushes yesterday. We do a lot of stuff ourselves. Had to fix the commode last week. And we've got about eight booths over there. I'm thinking about adding on, or I'd consider selling the right side of that lot.
Okay.
But I
All
sold
right.
that red '68 Camaro to buy that property because I had to have $3,500, and that's what that car. That car's probably worth $30,000 a day, but I sold it for $3,500, and I'm real proud of that business.
Yeah.
But I had 3 brick and mortar businesses at one time. I had some rental property on the county commission, on the planning committee, raising money for Rotary, doing the radio show with WGNS. And man, I was just doing too much.
Sure.
And I can remember Bob Spivey telling me at Rotary, Bob was my mentor, and Mayor Spivey said, "You need to back off, Mike." He said, "You're just doing too much."
Yeah.
Now, Bob was a businessman. And what's kind of humorous about that, Bob didn't say go concentrate on your marriage, concentrate on your family. He said concentrate on your business. But that's why he was a multimillionaire and I'm not,
Right.
But anyways, but my background's been, business, on the salons and some real estate, and the car business. And I do the radio show, Smart Issues, WGNS.
Sure.
Wrote a few books.
So when did you first run for office? Like what?
2002.
Okay.
Mhm.
And now you're running for re-election.
Re-election.
Right. How long have you
Re-election.
served in the state house?
I've been there going on 8 years.
Okay.
Going on 8 years.
Why are you running again?
Well, I like what I'm doing. I
Okay.
feel like I'll hit on issues that most people will talk about.
Sure.
And I think you would agree. You're big on civil liberties, and so am I.
Mhm.
I just left my TV2 news class at MTSU, broadcasting, journalism. I'd have never thought 5 years ago or 10 years ago that I was interested in journalism. But I'm going to tell you the reason I'm interested in journalism, because I see a lot of fake news. I see a lot of fake reporting.
Sure.
I see a lot of false narrative being preached that I think there needs to be another story told. And that's what I want to bring to the table, to tell that other story. But even my professor, he had told me, because it is an odd feeling when you're in there with these 20 and 24-year-olds, But the good thing is, they're like you. They're good at technology. They know how to use MacBook. They know how to do podcasts. And I'm learning from them. Now, I have the vision, I think, but I don't have the technical skills like they do. But I asked my instructor, and I was kidding him just now, because his wife came in. She teaches ethics in media.
Okay.
And she knows I'm curious about
Sure.
the unethical lack of ethics in media.
Mm-hmm.
And I see it, and she agrees. And I've asked him, I said, Dan Eschenfelder, great guy. He was with, I think, a Jacksonville news affiliate down there, and then Seattle news affiliate, not Seattle, but St. Louis. And I asked him a while back, I said, Dan, who do you trust in the media? Who do you trust? And I thought he would, pop off some national journalists from me. He said, I don't trust anyone. I said, you don't trust anyone in journalism? He says, I don't trust any of them. I was like, really?
Wow.
And
it's sad, right?
It is sad. I do think that our locals do a pretty good job. Channel 5, Channel 2, I think 17, does probably the best.
Right.
WGNS, I think, does a good job. The locals, D&J, I mean, they try.
Well, they're short-handed now.
Boy, they're very short-handed. I feel sorry for them. Recently, I was with Trump at the rally, and I'm sitting there. I'm sitting behind Scott Golden, the GOP chairman, and Trump points over to Scott Golden. It's kind of cool because I'm right behind him. Points over at us, and then he kind of calls out the media, and he's like, And to be honest with you, I kind of felt a little sorry for the reporters because it's comical.
I've heard that. At every Trump rally,
he does
that people feel sorry for.
I kind of do because this thing about it, they're doing their job,
right?
Well, it's like I've had all of them hit me.
Sure.
I mean, Sam Stockard, Nancy, Milan, Scott Broden, but you know what? At the end of the day, I think them individually are fair. Now, I have seen the media personally. I think I do feel like they personally attacked me. I do. I've got a young son that's given me trouble before. They just wore me out in the middle of a campaign. I mean, they put me on the front page 2 years ago when I mentioned Nashville was flying the gay pride flag. And then I mentioned that we get a mosque, but we turn down a Bible park. That's my opinion. I'm entitled to that under the First Amendment. They waited till the day of election
to run the story.
I see. Which really is a blessing. That's what I'm saying. Adversity is opportunity.
Sure.
Because as a Christian, I look back at Moses, I look at Gideon, I look at David in the Bible. I mean, if God can use David, he can use anybody.
Sure.
I mean, that guy was notorious. I mean, you can go back and study David.
Right.
But he had courage and he had faith. And a lot of men could probably identify with David, especially, Christians. And but I don't harbor no bitterness against them. I mean, Sam called me the other day and I was glad he called. He called me about, and I'm proud of Sam for talking about this. Where
he's a good writer.
He's a great writer. He really is. Well, he was talking about the judge was saying that they shouldn't be taking the driver's licenses away. And I've been saying this for years. You know me, I fought the PCC situation.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying this is ridiculous that we're locking people up because they're behind on probation fees. And it's costing the taxpayers $24,000 a year. You see me fighting with the mayor.
Yep.
It is lonely. I was on the front page of that too.
Sure.
It's lonely. But I'm kind of an outlier politically. There's no doubt. I mean, I stood with the Black Caucus 2 years ago when kids got arrested.
Right.
Okay. Well, I stood with the Black Caucus because I believe in civil liberties. That Democrats don't have a monopoly on that. I mean, the NAACP don't have a monopoly on that. Civil liberties, civil liberties.
Sure.
And just now, my instructor, he quoted Voltaire in a rough way. He just said, I may disagree with what you have to say, but I'll give my life for you to have the right to say it.
Mm-hmm.
And the Constitution, civil liberties, the First Amendment, Second Amendment, we can go on and on, are vital to the democracy that we live in. But I'm going to tell you, when I see journalists, when they disagree with you and they try to bump you off, I kind of have a problem with it. They can have their opinion, but I've seen them come against me, and it's really worked out in my favor. Thank God for it. But one thing about Sam I want to compliment is that I was at a chamber event. You may have been there about 4 years ago, 5 years ago, when I told Sam, I said, Sam, I said, at the end of the day, all you do is cover the election commission. You just want to stir it up. It's the front page. At the end of the day, you touch not one life. You didn't lift up nobody. You didn't lift up the community. What did you do? I said, we've got a drug epidemic. Families are dealing with this. We got an alcoholism epidemic is what I'll say. DUI arrests are up 136% the past 5 years. In fact, I told that to a reporter. They left out the stat. Wouldn't the stat be important to the argument?
Right.
Well, they left it out. They just said, Sparks voted against them. I didn't think we need to be selling alcohol at MTSU stadiums.
Right.
Young minds, young people. If you want to drink, you're 21.
Drink in the parking lot.
Yes. No, I don't think we need to be. I just don't think we need to put it out there.
I know.
But it was sad that they didn't quote my statistic.
Sure.
I just talked to a guy the other day.
I would think that some of the reason we have higher DUI levels is because we keep lowering the rate, like the blood level content.
Yeah, there's different factors.
Yeah.
Now is 7-day wine sales at grocery stores going to make a difference? I don't know. I don't know.
Right.
But one thing that I want to do as someone who wants to be an effective change maker, and I think at the end of the day, that's what I want to be, an effective change maker. It's not being a Republican or a Democrat or a conservative or a liberal or a civil libertarian. At the end of the day, let's go by the Constitution. Let's enforce the laws that's on the books. Let's get out of the small businesses' way. Let's don't create more tax barriers and more regulations on small business like I'm seeing. That's happened.
Sure.
I've never voted for a tax increase. And the folks that are running against me now.
Even when you're on the county commission?
No, I never did.
Wow.
I spoke
there
against
you
all
go.
that.
Right.
I spoke against all that. Now I was an outsider on that, and
You're used to being an outsider.
I'm used to it, and it's lonely. Seriously, it really is lonely because who do you identify with? You can't pick up the phone and call the caucus, the Republican caucus majority leader. He might identify with you, but he don't know my district.
Right.
He don't know what I'm going through. He don't know the families I deal with.
That's true.
But when I go talk to people and I hear the hurts,
Mm-hmm.
guy told me the other day, he said, Mike, my wife just got diagnosed with cancer. He said, my son that was having alcohol problem, he's turned his life around.
Oh, wow.
I said, what's touched his life? He said, Mike, he got in this church. He said, this church started coming to the jail.
Wow.
And it made a difference in his life. He says, and I gave him my card. I said, have your it was a stepson, called me. I said, I want him to go touch 100 people's lives. Don't just, because you got a healing and you're out of it, you go touch some other people's lives.
Sure.
He said, oh, Mike, he's doing it. He's doing that. But, Gabriel, you know how much it costs taxpayers for that program?
Nothing, I would guess.
It costs
right?
nothing.
Yeah, right.
It costs nothing.
Sure.
And you think about it, how many people are out there talking about let's get the prison ministry in the jail. Let's go, talk to these folks. Let's go, talk about alcoholism and what they can do, how to interview for a job skill, how to start your own roofing company, your own plumbing business. I used to talk about that as a county commissioner,
Mm-hmm.
and I would get the deer in the headlight look from people. Seriously, this is common sense. Now, this is what's sad. People are putting people in office many times that are clueless. I can promise you, people don't like me talking about these things. I can remember standing up on the county commission floor when they raised taxes, speaking against tax increase. I watched this county, and there's many people get mad at me saying this right now. I watched this county spend $650,000 on tennis courts. You play tennis?
I grew up playing tennis, still play a little bit.
You might get offended, okay? Because
No, I was against that too. It took a lot of flack. I was running for county commission after that.
think about this. $650,000 was spent on tennis courts, and we don't even own the property. $650,000 on tennis courts. We don't own the property. Now they're going to say, well, we want to get TSSAA tournaments in here, da-da-da. They're going to make an argument. And that has some credible elements for that argument. Well, right down the street from my house are tennis courts with hackberry trees growing through them.
Sure.
That we own. The
Right.
school system owns.
Right.
Plenty of parking. Nobody's there on Saturdays. What I was arguing is let's use this as a site, and let's use our own county as a site.
Mm-hmm.
Let's don't go give Murfreesboro $650,000 spend on tennis courts. I said, what do we spend on the jail over here? What do we spend on the jail? What if we just invested $25,000 in the jail for job skills, for a library, for maybe there's some TV
What type of
monitors.
return would that bring?
Yes,
Right?
I mean I'd say it's 100%.
Yeah,
Wouldn't you go invest 100% return?
maybe.
I would do it. I would, and then you're touching
Depends
your
on
lives.
the opportunity cost, right? Is there something that's going to pay me $1,000?
Well, good
then-
point.
Then I'll leave
Well,
100 on
yes,
the table.
and there, at that time, I mean, there really wasn't opportunity cost at that time.
Sure.
I mean, to me, investing in the jail because that's one of your biggest budget, line items is the jail.
Sure.
Okay, why not? That's not being a bleeding heart. That's being a conservative. Invest in teaching someone how to fish, not give them a bunch of EBT cards to go buy fish. Like
Right.
I was behind a lady the other day at Food Line, $236. She's by herself, loaded down with groceries with an EBT card. Here I am. I'm using a little EBT card. I'm looking shopping for deals.
Right.
Sure.
Sure.
Going through there, and I'm not, hating on somebody because I don't know her situation. She might
Right.
have had 5 kids at home. I don't know her situation,
Sure.
but I see a society that's crumbling, and we got to push back.
And there are people that take advantage of the system. So
There are. And there's some people
make
that-
it harder for that mother you're talking
And there
about.
are some
does
people
that,
that need it. I got a guy now that's a locksmith. I called him the other day. He had a problem with a Lexus key, and he gets $18 a month.
Wow.
And he says, I said, well, let's look into it. His wife in bad health. He's in bad health, and he gets $18. Now
Okay.
he's in his 70s, but a lot of issues. But that's one thing I like about you because I think what you could bring to the table is a fiscally conservative mentality, a cost savings approach, efficiencies, and you bring that civil libertarian aspect to you. It doesn't mean you're not for good schools. It doesn't mean you're not for parks or good infrastructure. It's just saying, let's make sure what we're spending is wise.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. You know me well because we speak all the time. But let me ask you a question.
Mhm.
When or if you win this office again, do you have any plans? What you got anything on the that you're cooking up right now? Anything?
I'm probably the type of lawmaker. I think we have too many laws on the books now.
Okay.
Let's enforce laws we got.
Can you remove some of them?
Yeah, that's what I was telling the mayor 2 years ago when I was on the front page. And we had a little battle, and nothing against the mayor. I mean, I like the mayor. I think he's a good man. He's doing some good work over here with the prison ministry and 940 the workhouse. He's done some good things.
Sure.
We got a good county.
You can still disagree with it.
Yeah, and I did. Well, I'll tell you. Hey, let me tell you. There's a lot of people in politics that don't like you disagree with it.
Well,
They don't, and they'll harbor bitterness against it. Me, I got endorsed by a Democrat chairman that worked against me.
Yeah.
People look at me like, what? He left the Democratic Party. He said they were too far left. And we're on the Michael DeJourno show.
okay.
He endorsed me live on the air on the Michael DeJourno
Wow.
radio show. But what it was, the reason that happened is because Ned Ray McWhorter was one of my customers at my business.
Okay.
Ned Ray was a Democrat governor, and I remember kidding him about being a Democrat. He said, "Son, I'm a Southern Democrat." There's a big difference. I don't think he liked what was going on with the Obama administration, some of that. But when Ned, the governor, died, I just reached out to the Democrat chairman. I said, "Hey man, use my parking pass. I got a parking space."
Sure.
At the time, I could like let somebody use my space. Now they've really cracked down because of
Security concerns.
Yeah, security concerns and all. But it's kind of weird. But it didn't cost me a thing, and all it was an act of kindness. Does that make me a bad Republican? I don't think so. I think it makes me a better statesman and a better person, and it cost me nothing. But me and that guy was more of a conservative than he was what you see today with the Democrat Party. Democrat Party today they're far left.
Mhm.
I mean, let's face it.
There's a lot.
I mean,
Yes.
they're far. Probably the thing I'm the closest to right now is probably here's a lady right now that's battling cancer. Shannon Strong. I think she's a teacher at Smyrna.
Okay.
Cancer research is big. I got a sister that's had a brain tumor.
Sure.
She had a brain tumor, or she does, and I'm big on that. But I think the Smyrna Laverne Food Bank, I think, is something I try to help with. We just had a big cornhole toss last year, and I appreciate it. We had a huge turnout. Sheriff was there, Lou Castro, Dr. Brian Terry, and several
wow.
others. Lisa Crow, Heather Dauber, several others that came out, and the Smyrna Laverne Food Bank. I think you're touching the least of these. That's the people out there in your community.
Sure.
But man, I just see so much, Gabriel. I mean, the prison ministry is a big area that that we should help. The Boys and Girls Club's doing a good job. That's impacting young men and women with
Huge.
when they don't
big
have
differences that
fathers.
we don't know any. It's hard to measure the difference they're making.
Well, just that one in Smyrna, that's my stomping ground. I
Mhm.
went to all those schools: Thurman Francis, Smyrna Middle, David Jury. The little where the Boys and Girls Club is in Smyrna. There used to be a little gravel road back behind. I think it's still there. Well, I had these two African American friends that I grew up with. They were about 10 when we met, but they were like dirt poor. I mean, dirt poor. They literally probably never had a bath in a month. Would come to school. I can remember them being kind of shunned.
Mm-hmm.
I watched it, as a young 10-year-old.
The world's changed a lot.
It has changed a lot, and we always played sports and football and baseball, and they were terrific athletes, man. They were just awesome athletes. And Herbert and Jerry Alexander was their names. And I remember they didn't even have a coat in the wintertime. And my mom, who's a strong Christian woman, she would go buy them a jacket, get them coats, and they got taken away from their parents.
Oh man!
And we talk about bootstraps. Pull yourself up by bootstraps. Hell, they never had a damn pair of bootstraps.
Gotta have boots
and no
first,
boots.
man. That's right.
And they got taken away. They got put in Tennessee Preparatory School. So, they didn't have that positive male role model. I mean, I watched them get shunned in the neighborhood because back then, neighbors would be looking, if black kids coming through the neighborhood, they're kind of looking. Remember, this is in the late 70s.
Right.
And we would go visit them at Tennessee Preparatory School. And one sadly went to prison. The other one stayed in touch with me. I hadn't seen him in a pretty good while. But, they didn't have a chance. I at least had a dad that was a hard guy who helped me get started in business.
Sure.
My stepdad who encouraged me. Now, it was kind of funny. My stepdad, not really on his deathbed, but he knew he was dwindling down. He was talking to my little brother, was my half brother, and real proud of him. And he flies an aircraft for DEA, and he was number one agent at Quantico, and he graduated FBI, and real proud of him. And my stepdad looks at me. He says, he's talking about his will. He says, "Mike, you're not in my will." He says, "But you had a dad. Your dad left you a little something." And I was like, "Well, that's fine. You didn't leave me in your will.
Right.
I mean, I don't need nothing." Yeah. But he did teach me a lot. He encouraged me, which really meant
hard to put a value on.
Oh, you can. It's priceless.
Right.
I mean, looking back in life, that is really priceless.
Mm-hmm.
And you got some wisdom for how old?
What a man to tell you that too, rather than letting you be surprised at the.
Oh yeah.
Right. You know what I mean? That's a man.
And I said, "Oh man, I'm
yeah.
cool with that, Bill. You never leave me anything." I mean, he left my mom good.
Sure.
He took care of my mom. He had no debt, and everything was paid for. But what was cool with my stepdad, I was just over here at NHC, the senior care.
Right.
And I seen what my stepdad was going through at the nursing home, assisted living facility in Lebanon. And nothing against M. Croft. I mean, here I'm calling her name out. But a couple times I went in there, he's laying on the floor.
Wow.
Assisted living facility. He's laying on the floor. And I'm watching him wither away. I'm watching him. And, we talked about, we had a good conversation, but he's withering away. He was 33 miles away from my house. I was trying to go see him I could. But Representative White had just recognized NHC for a new either Parkinson's wing they had added on, or Alzheimer's ring or something.
Right.
And she called on me to say a few words, and I talked about my stepdad. It's literally, he probably don't have but a few hours, maybe a day left in his life. And I left there, went straight to Elmcroft with my wife, walked in. My stepdad was there. I mean, my stepsister, stepbrother was there. My mom was there. Walked in, probably the first time we'd all been together since maybe he went in there, or maybe we never had been together.
Wow.
My mom looked up at my stepdad. She started hollering for him, and he took his last breath.
Wow.
So I was with him.
Yeah.
But, then I'm seeing what my sister's dealing with
Mm-hmm.
in the nursing home with 4 people in one room.
Wow.
And we're paying for that now, $200 a day.
Wow.
$200 a day we're paying for. Well, my mom is technically.
Right.
And she's got Humana, and Humana's turned her down. Let me tell you, that's why I wrote that letter to Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Because we got to get a hold of this healthcare system somehow, and we got to get costs down. We got to find some efficiencies.
Mm-hmm.
$200 a day in a room, probably about a half bigger than this office right here, and there's 4 people.
So you're close to
$200.
each other. Yeah.
Yeah, she was a big encourager for me. My sister always would say, she would say, your future is determined by the books you read and the people you meet. And that's got a lot of truth. Yeah, she was a trailblazer. She's older than me. She graduated journalism at MTSU. And you know why she didn't want to go in journalism?
Why?
The dirty laundry. That's why she didn't want to do it, because she's got such a good heart. She was number one in sales with an insurance company back in the day. She had a cancer policy. She bought a cancer policy and wound up with cancer.
Wow.
And she had that brain tumor. They had to cut it out when she was about 29, 30. And, she done pretty decent, but her memory started fading. And then she got to where, she wrecked her car last year, and, the state took her driver's license away, which they needed to. And it's hard to give up driving smooth. That's her independence.
Sure.
But then she failed. But she has woke up. I had said a little prayer here a while back. She was in there. She was on the trach. She was on the breathing machine, hooked up to all these tubes, feeding tubes. And it was pretty bad. I don't know if you've ever been through this.
No.
But it's pretty rough. And I remembered, praying with my sister like I do every morning, my family. And my older sister was crying because we've got to do a conservatorship. We got to make decisions. And my older sister, who was a former nurse, she started crying, and that almost my sister cried. I go next door because my mom lives next door, and I said a little prayer to my wife, and I just said, Lord, if you're not going to heal my sister, then just take her. Sure. And I hate to say a prayer like that. I mean, literally praying for my sister to pass away. I mean, that's not something I really want to pray about, but I also don't want to see her hooked up to feeding tubes and brain damage.
Right.
And I had my truck loaded up with recyclables, because some Republicans recycle like I do, and I also had some other trash. And I loaded up, and my wife come running out with the phone. Remember, my sister was unconscious,
right?
Hadn't opened her eyes in about 2 or 3 months, and she come out. She said, "Vicki, just opened her eyes."
Wow.
And she said the word "what" and the word "no." So my prayers were answered. She's slowly doing better, but I'm gonna tell you, man, the good thing about this, the blessing though, because in every bad situation, there's some kind of gold nugget of opportunity or a blessing. And you got to reach down and pick it up and see it and grab it. And I'm learning. I'm seeing what these folks are dealing with. Like Miss Woods, she's next. She's right there by my sister. She's an African-American lady. She's blind. I'm checking on her. Another lady, Mary, she's slowing down. Another lady that's, I guess she's from Thailand. And I have this theory, because she keeps playing this Thai music in these videos. I got this theory that my sister's going to come to really good and know Thailand. No Thai,
right.
Know how to speak Laos, because that's all she's playing. And you hear this music, and my sister hadn't complained, but she's literally just, 15 feet from her with the TV on, listening to all this Thai music and song and dance. And I mean, but I'll tell you what was neat. And because this is what's kind of cool. I carried my mom over yesterday, Gabriel. And mom's in the walker, and we walk in with mom, and I'm trying to watch her, make sure she don't fall, and she sits with her. And my mom, she would sing in the choir. My mom's very spiritual, even though we grew up Catholic. My mom's very, Pentecostal kind of lady, and she would pray over everything. And my mom's over, and she starts singing to my sister. Remember, my sister don't even know my name half the time.
Right.
Don't even know my family members' names. And my mom would get to a verse, and she would, I think it was something about that, Lord, you're my healer.
Uh-huh.
And she said, my mom forgot the words. My sister picked up on it and started singing the words, man. And started filling in the void.
Right.
And I thought, wow, how the mind, my sister couldn't remember names, but all of a sudden she's remembered songs.
Wow.
And I'm like, the human mind is fascinating. So maybe that's how she's learning. Mm-hmm. The other day I was doing the radio show, and I was talking about, healthcare, and I want to tie it into my sister. So I went to see my sister that morning. And my sister had complained to the nurse, and she said something like, I couldn't understand. She was like mumbling, my butt hurts. Like that. I'm like, what? And she said, and finally she says, B-U-T. My butt hurts, like that. And, here she at least tried to spell the word butt.
Right.
And you had to find the humor in it, because if you don't find the humor, you would probably break down and cry.
Wear you down, right?
Yeah, because, a lot of families are dealing with Alzheimer's and the Parkinson's and cancer. So for me as a lawmaker, as an effective change maker, I get very passionate. And I was going to call Humana out on the House floor about two and a half months ago. And I went to the speaker. And, I can get fired up, but I don't, you got to be effective. And you could lose your effectiveness if you're not careful.
That's right.
So I went to Speaker. What do you think, Speaker? I said, I'm seeing this with my sister. I said, you knocked on my sister's door. My sister always liked you. And she said, Mike, this is happening with a lot of companies. It's not just Humana. It's a lot of others. But, to answer your question, I'm passionate about what's going on with my sister.
Yeah.
I don't like to see people screwed over.
Mm-hmm.
And, my background's in the car business, having the salon, real estate. I never hurt anybody. I've got 100% positive feedback on eBay. Treated people right. I've got people that have bought 5 cars. Dave Ramsey shot me. Dan Miller, his best friends, bought 11 cars from me. 48days.com. 40 Days Work You Love. I'm in his book. I've treated people good. But I never committed no fraud where you're trying to hurt somebody. To me, when you're paying your insurance premiums and this company, see, this is what's interesting. I want your viewers to know this. When my sister was on the trach, hooked up on the breathing machine, Humana told the hospital, we're not going to pay for skilled nursing because she's not going to get any better. Think about this. Okay, that was their excuse. Okay, she don't get any better. All of a sudden, she gets better, and then they don't want to cover her. They told me on the phone that she had 100 days of skilled nursing.
Okay,
and they still turn it down. Now they got us jumping through all these hoops.
Sure.
But you know what? And this is what I think I'll bring to the table, because one of your viewers is going to deal with what I'm dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to have that passion to go fight an insurance company.
Sure.
Do you think a guy that sells insurance is really going to fight an insurance company like my opponent? I don't think so. My record is a proven fighter.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care if you're the governor. I'm speaking against the governor. I'm against this JLL contract right now. Just search Nashville Post, Mike Sparks, JLL, and I'm all about the private sector. But you got to save money.
Right.
Prove how you save money. They haven't proved how they're saving money with all this privatization because it's going to Chicago.
I see.
Now, if it stay in Tennessee, because you look at the macroeconomic scheme of things, a rising tide lifts up all boats. If you go do a real estate,
the money stays in the economy,
in
circulates
economy,
in the economy.
Yeah, but you send it to investors that live in Manhattan or San Francisco or Portland, Oregon. How's that benefit the residents of my community?
Tough to justify, for sure.
Yeah, but anyways.
Let me ask you another question real quick. Let's see. I've got like 4 questions I want to ask. Who's your political hero other than Ronald Reagan? Because everybody always wants to say Ronald Reagan.
Yeah, you got that.
But I know you. If somebody was going to, I bet it's William Wilberforce.
Yeah. Man, dude, how you cycle?
I know you well. So,
but how many of your viewers don't even know who that guy is?
Probably they'll be Google it now, right?
William Wilberforce. How did you know that?
I've heard you speak about him before and how how he had vision and mission for the people, and he was a fighter, and so that's who.
But if you go study Wilberforce, he was an effective change maker, but he finally freed the slaves. Wilberforce freed the slaves of Great Britain.
That's right,
and that's where I know the Lord.
He purchased their freedom.
Yeah, this is why I know the Lord's put this on my heart, because you know about MTSU, Forest Hall. I was the one that spoke, and I want to compliment. Rob Mitchell did speak too. Well, the media left my comments out. They never even reported my comments because mine. Rob's was truthful too, but I started pointing out. I asked the kids. I said, "Do you mind getting into this? Is this okay?"
I want to keep it
talking about
a little
heroes.
short here, but
okay.
Yes. But,
here's a little bit of a political hero was Samson Keeble. I bet your viewers.
Yeah, no one. Yeah.
Samson Keeble. He was the first black lawmaker in the state of Tennessee. He was a Republican and a Confederate soldier.
Wow.
Talk about a trailblazer. Could you imagine being the first African-American lawmaker in the Tennessee General Assembly? He just lost the Civil War. Sitting there. The media treated him bad, by the way.
Really?
Yes. Go study history, and you'll see how the media kind of made fun of him. Said he looked out of place. Well, wow. I'm sure he did look out of place.
Sure.
You know what I mean? But that guy had positive male role models in his life.
Okay.
The Keeble family and others, they run the newspaper up here. He was what you call a press boy, they called it,
Okay.
So he apparently worked in the printing industry.
I see.
Well, he had positive mentors that encouraged him. Then he ran for office. Now, he couldn't get elected to Rutherford County. He moved to Davidson County. This is where I told those students, is how many of y'all know? Remember, these are about 100 African American students that are graduating college.
Sure.
They don't know the history. Didn't know. Remember, they're all fighting about Nathan Bedford Forrest. They didn't know who Samson Keeper was.
Right.
Then I asked them who John Newton was. You know who John Newton was? John Newton's one that wrote. John Newton one that wrote Amazing Grace.
Okay.
John Newton was sold into slavery. John Newton had a rough story. John Newton, they said, was such a bad guy. He cussed so bad that sailors didn't want to be around him. I mean, this guy was a rough character, but the Lord touched his heart. And I think he's kind of one of those situations where he just hit rock bottom, and he was like, Lord, if you'll just turn my life around, you just lift me up out of this pit, I'll serve you.
Sure.
And then what he did, he ended up, seeing the slave trade because he was a slave ship captain. Then he became a minister, but he didn't really fit into the conventional ministry. Just like St. Patrick. St. Patrick was a rebellious priest, and he was sold into slavery. A lot of people don't know the history of St.
Right.
Patrick, but not to get off on that tangent, but to stay focused on William Wilberforce, he influenced William Wilberforce. William Wilberforce fought for years to end slavery, and they said finally on William Wilberforce's deathbed is when they freed the slaves. But he fought and he fought and he fought. But I think for me, I've learned it doesn't happen in my time. It's like this PCC situation. It didn't happen in my time, but it got done.
Sure.
The jail reforms, I heard Sheriff Fitzhugh, and I got to, tell me how weird this is. All right. I'm kind of a proponent of the CBD oil. I'm opened up on medical marijuana. I'm keeping open mind.
Okay.
Because my stepdad, who was a state investigator, said, he remembers dispensing medical marijuana years ago.
Right, before it was.
I was like, I didn't know that.
Right.
He said, Mike, I think there could be some potential positive uses. If you're in hospice as a lawmaker, why should I tell you medical marijuana is bad for you and you're in hospice? You got 3 months to live. That's a oxymoron right there if there ever is one. So I see my stepdad. I see the people. I'm listening to the community. I'm listening to law enforcement. I'm listening to pharmacists.
Mm-hmm.
I called a pharmacist here in Smyrna. I won't say what chain. Well, I said it earlier. I shouldn't say which one. You people probably don't talk about. I called this. It was a female. I said, what do you think about medical marijuana? I was just calling people.
Right.
She said, you need to legalize marijuana. I was like, what? And she was a pharmacist. She said, look, it's already out there. People are going to get it. She said, the opioid crisis is far worse. Alcoholism is far worse. I was shocked.
Wow.
I called a detective.
Mm-hmm.
I won't say where. I called a detective. Okay. And he's a friend of mine. I called him and I said, what do you think? You need to legalize it. Law enforcement. I mean, a detective.
Right.
I mean, legalize it. Now, I'm not for legalization. I'm not for that. But I'm saying I'm keeping open mind on these issues. But I think next year, I don't know how you go invent a law to encourage positive male role models to be involved in kids' lives. I don't know how you really invent more laws to turn people around. But the point I want to make is I had Dr. Brian Terry talk about CBD oil.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, talk about what his legislation. Right before that, he talked, and then I had Sheriff Fitzhugh speak.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm proud of of our jail over here and New Vision Church and others that are involved. Franklin Road, Bel Air Baptist, some of the things that they're doing to turn around people facing opioid addiction and alcoholism. And it was just kind of strange because here the sheriff speaks right after, and here we had this little ordeal with CBD and all that kind of stuff. Early last year, I guess it was early this year, and but the sheriff, they are having reforms out there. They're doing great things. Brother John Spurgeon out there.
Do you see something happen in the state soon?
Oh, we had the Fresh Start Act. In
Okay.
fact, when Sam Stockard called me, I brought up the Fresh Start Act.
Okay.
And in fact, I gave him an attorney's name who's big on helping, Steve Waldron. I don't think you mind me sharing this. And I gave him Steve Waldron. That's here I'm kind of giving him hooks or angles for the story.
Right.
And Sam was like, yeah. And in fact, I just was telling somebody because I did get mad at Sam when he wouldn't cover that issue about the opioid crisis. And then, 4 days later, and I hope I mentioned this earlier, he said, I called him to the mat,
Mm-hmm.
and he started covering the opioid crisis. And he did cover it. And, but at the time I'm talking about it, literally no one was talking about it back 10 years ago, or 12 years ago.
It's been going on for a while.
It has, and one thing, and it's not, I mean, it's not like I'm bragging, but I was the first elected official to talk about these things, and I took my opponent to lunch. People thought I was crazy taking Kent Coleman to lunch because this guy just beat. He was a very wealthy guy. I would say easily net worth of me, and I would say he treated me good, treated my kids good. My kids.
He bought lunch. You bought lunch.
Well, I bought lunch. I did buy lunch. I said
you did invite him out.
I did. I invited him. And what was kind of sad with Kent, he's taking all the medicine.
Sure.
Because he was battling
right.
cystic fibrosis, and sadly he passed 2 years ago. My understanding, he was the longest survivor of cystic fibrosis. But I literally had a couple people that made fun of me for taking my opponent to lunch. They thought that was crazy. I think it's brilliant.
Yeah.
I think, hey, he was a brilliant lawmaker.
Right.
Vanderbilt law grad.
Sure.
He knew more about law than I did.
Right.
And I said, Kent, how come nobody cares about the drug problem? He says, Mike, if somebody has never been touched by the drug problem and alcoholism, they probably don't care. He says, Mike, get on the health committee. That way you can be an effective change maker. Then he goes on to start telling me how to win my next race.
Wow.
My opponent teaches me how to win my next
That's
race.
awesome.
And I'm not going to go into the details he told me. I'll tell you off camera, and you'd like it. I don't want people to misconstrue what I'm saying.
Right.
I named a bridge after him in Smyrna. We haven't done the ceremony yet. I just, see, people will hate on me for naming a bridge after my opponent. Believe it or not, people will get mad that I named a bridge after my opponent. Like some people, I'm not going to call their names. They got mad because I named a bridge after Paul Johns, because I named a bridge after Captain Jeff Coos.
Right.
And I tell you, it's egos, folks. We got to let the egos get out of the way and just get into being a public servant.
Sure.
And serving the best interest of people. Calvin Coolidge said, a man get more done if he doesn't mind who gets the credit for it. And I think Reagan had a version of that too. But my political hero would probably be what you said, William Wilberforce. Reagan naturally. But even Abraham Lincoln. But you get into people that had passion and conviction. I mean, look at Nathan Bedford Forrest. You're like, oh my God, Forrest. But Forrest, he freed civilians that were going to be executed. He ended up advocating for African Americans. It's all historically documented. 3,000 blacks at his own funeral.
Wow.
But I spoke at MTSU. Nobody knew anything. They never printed this. They never printed my comments. But the main protester there come up to me, Brandon Woodruff, and he wanted to know more about William Wilberforce.
Wow.
He said, you think I can intern with you? Remember, he's the main protester. I'm like the far right. He's the far left. And we kind of become close. He's running for office in Chattanooga now as a state rep.
That's
Brandon
awesome.
Woodruff. Yeah, he's probably more, he's very passionate. He's just 25. He's got 2 master's degrees. He said, and he's a sharp guy. And I said, I think he'll be effective, but he's effective because he's got discernment and some wisdom. I mean, who would come up and start asking me questions but a man that's smart?
Sure. Or
like Marvin, that's helping me just graduate TSU. I think he's going to go to law school, and I'm hoping he's the first one to be admitted to this. Hopefully, we'll go get this new law school at TSU.
That'd be awesome.
He was one in the paper today.
Okay.
Because when Scott Broden called me, I said, here, get Marvin. Talk to this guy.
Right.
He happened to be sitting with me. But mentors and
you do a great job of that.
Well, hey, I mean,
passing it around.
Well, but you know what? I mean, people tell me that, but you know what? You always got somebody hating on you.
Well,
but I mean, you do. I mean, other day, my opponent, they're trying to hate on me. My per diems. I get $63 to go to Nashville for the week. I mean, I go once a week. I get $63.
Right.
I'm one of the lowest paid legislators in Nashville. But they'll hate. But they're not going to tell you that they just voted for their own pay raise.
Sure.
It's not the media to cover.
Right.
And if folks don't believe me, go pull up the website, Town of Smyrna. The video links are disappeared. The mayor will get a 300% pay increase.
Wow.
How come the media didn't talk about that?
There's not much media left.
But you know what? This is what I see the hypocrisy in the media. Okay. When last year I spent $130 out of my campaign account for education. $130. Okay. Like I just got 2 books. I rented them. I could have paid for it out of my campaign account because I'm learning to be able to take that and take issues. I just paid cash for it. They literally tried to smear me because I spent $130 for education. I mean, when I get one state trip a year, one trip. The town council just went to Las Vegas. Is that in the paper? It ain't in the paper. Laverne Council went to Vegas. Is that in the paper? No, and I'm not hating on them. If they want to go to a convention, but I mean, they're gonna hate on me. I spent time with my wife. I go to the conference. It's at Hard Rock. I don't gamble and I don't drink, so I stayed in a different location away, with my wife. And they want to, oh, look at Sparks. I'm telling you, I've seen the fake news. They tried to paint me as a bigot. They ain't going to tell you, oh, Mike's still with the Black Caucus. Did that make news? Didn't make news. The only Republican to ever stand with the Black Caucus don't make news. I'm on the African American calendar for 2018. I hung out with the African American Heritage Society, and it was where I got confirmation. Is we walked up and they started singing Amazing Grace. And that's where Dr. George Smith, and folks, if they'll Google Dr. George Smith, Mike Sparks, they'll see the column. Sadly, George Smith just passed away. He's an African American trailblazer.
I'm going to have a lot of work to do.
You got a lot of work
to get all these points.
Yeah,
in here,
it's hard.
So I got two real quick questions. It's going to get off of politics a little bit. What do you do for fun?
Man. Well, I mean, I like to learn. I like to learn. I mean, I've got a motorcycle, but I hadn't had a chance to ride. I bartered for it last year. I got a nice Kawasaki Vulcan. It's dressed out. I hadn't had a chance to ride it. I mean, I like the bike. But man, I see a lot of deaths out there. A lot of people get killed, and
it's dangerous.
I got a wife and 2 kids, and I mean, like I say, I mean, I hang out with my wife. I've got a good marriage. Give God the glory for married 29 years, and she's kind of my rock.
Sure.
And and this is what kind of pisses me off in politics when you're enemies, when these people. I mean, think about this. I want your viewers to know this. My opponent just told me 2 years ago, Mike, you should have went into ministry. You got a real heart for the people. You got a heart for the people. Now all of a sudden they're slamming me. Well, it hurts my wife. When they hurt my wife, they hurt me.
Sure.
And when they talk about my family members, it hurts me. Okay. But you know what? That's politics. And what I want your viewers to do, you challenge the people that run for office. Run on your record, brother. Run on your record.
Yeah.
Don't go create fake news. Don't have to smear candidates. Don't have to talk about their family. You run on your record of raising taxes, of wanting us to vote for a gas tax, of raising your own pay, or raising the impact fee where homes are not, they're unaffordable now.
Right.
I run a resolution on, I got the Hero of Housing Award from the home builders just last month.
Wow.
I haven't done a press release or anything. Like I said, I've never voted for a tax increase. But, challenge your elected officials. What have you done for me lately? What have you done for me in the past? My opponent's been there 10 years. I've been in my position going on 8 years. I'm talking about term limits. Especially at the federal level, I don't think that people need to be serving no 20 years. But I see a lot of fake news. I'll put my record up against anybody, and I'll debate. And you were with me.
Sure.
Remember what was cool? The school board was trying to hate on us, or hate on me.
Sure.
So you
invited me in this shark-infested water.
Wasn't that masterful? Well, what happened? I had an event about term limits, of U.S. term limits. I had some people in the community. Well, I already had the event scheduled. I had Chris Devaney coming in, and I had a guy from Florida flew up, and I already had it scheduled. They already had the flight, the hotel, everything booked. Well, all of a sudden, they want to set up Legal Women Voters. Well, Legal Women Voters is an arm of the Democrats. Let's face it, folks. They're not conservative. I know they're not. Well, they had it all set up. It's going to be interviewed, and it was a setup. I know what they do, okay? But I already had that event scheduled for U.S. term limits. Well, the newspaper put us on the paper, set us up. I think it was me and Don White and Brian Terry, Tim Rudd. They showed our little, the nameplates,
Right.
and the empty seats. They tried to hit us. I think put us on the front page. Try to hit us. Well, I already had my event scheduled. So I just emailed, or I wrote and emailed both school boards. I said, I'm willing to debate you live on WGS radio. And WGS, they're down with it, and they believe in the First Amendment. They're great folks, and I love what Bart and Scott and all them do over there, and Brian. And
it's a real treasure of our community.
And so I said, well, is there anybody that could just be my ride shotgun with me? Could be my Aaron. Moses had an Aaron. Gideon had somebody. David had somebody. And 2 or 3 people said, Gabriel Fancher. I was like, yeah. And remember my opponent. He was against school choice, but he homeschooled his kids. He had a choice, but he wanted to knock everybody else. I'm all about homeschool. You want to homeschool? More power to you. You want to put your kid in private school? More power to you. A lot of folks can't afford to homeschool.
Right.
Because it goes back to that fatherless. They don't have They don't have that.
Parent, you got to
And
be
they
able to
don't have the
afford it.
income.
That's right.
Yes. And remember what you said? They were talking about these for-profit companies. And what did you say?
I asked him why he was against profit.
Yeah, what's up with profit?
Why are you
And then
against-
they asked me something about why do you care about Memphis? I do care about Memphis. I care about the inner city. I care about Mountain City. I care
We're
about
affected by all
Chattanooga.
those things.
We
right?
are.
Those people grow up there and they move here.
Man,
you know?
what was so cool is I had a lady that's real big on school choice and the charter schools and just outside the box. I think she's an African American. She's in a PBS documentary. I forgot the lady's name, but if you type in Memphis,
she's the lady that called in.
yeah. She happened to be listed.
Let them have
Oh
it.
man, it was so cool. I mean, it had to be a God thing because her daughter's in MTSU,
Mhm.
and somehow she was listening to the show. And I said, I have to care about Memphis. I do care about Memphis. I've been to Memphis. I've been down there towards some schools. Yeah, I listen to the Memphis lawmakers. I kind of feel sorry for what they got to deal with. We're blessed up here. They're not.
It's a
And
different
she
story.
called them, man, and she rang them. Oh, by the way, who do you think won that debate? Who do you think won the debate?
I'd like to think we did.
Well, it's four of them against two of us.
Exactly.
Well, really, it should have been 14, but the others never showed up.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Here they're trying to hate on me, and they were like, hey, come on up, let's debate. And I'll say that today. I'll debate anybody, anywhere, anytime. You know,
The
and
Gauntlet's been thrown
let's just
down.
do it. I mean, you know, they run on their record, I run on my record, and that's the way it should be.
Sure.
It shouldn't be who's got the fanciest commercials, who has to slander this guy and you know and make fun of one of their family members that's had some problems. And that's happened, by the way.
Oh, wow.
That's happened. And I could call their names out. I'm not going to do it. You know, one thing that Jesus talked about that's difficult as a Christian, it's one of the most challenging aspects of being a Christian is forgiveness.
Oh, yeah. It's the scandal of grace, man.
It's really difficult, but really it's really the basis of being a Christian. You have to forgive, and I do forgive. And I mean, I see him on Facebook trying to give me a hard time and this and that. You know, people ask, are you going to respond? I just give it time.
Sure.
The Lord will fight my battles.
And he
And I
does.
call on him to fight my battle, just like David. None of these people would fight back in the day, and God used David.
Sure.
He wasn't the most articulate, most educated. He didn't fit in with the country club crowd. You know, remember what you told me years ago? What did you tell me? Let your viewers know.
Let's see. That you're probably talking about the time I told you that I can't remember what you were voting
Remember,
on.
I run a
What's-
deal.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. That's when they were giving the raises to all the executives.
Yeah, I had a bill, and I'll challenge any of your listeners. I found the most savings of any freshman lawmaker in the state of Tennessee in the history. But House Bill 1968, but it froze. It was $2.6 million for the savings the first year, about almost $30 million savings over a 10-year period. I was surprised when Fiscal Review ran the numbers. My bill, when I was a county commissioner, I watched top officials get a big, like $10,000 pay raise.
And that was your thing.
And
The
they would
top
blame it.
officials were getting raises.
Yeah, the top
and bottom
officials
guys were not.
would be get $8,000, $10,000 pay raises. And I remember they would say, oh, it's the state. It's the state. They blame it on the state.
Always.
Okay, so what I did, I thought, you know what, I'm going to stay now. I'm going to change this. I started doing some investigating, started listening around, started talking to some attorneys about draft legislation. Well, my own party would support it. My bill froze the mayor, the sheriff, the property assessor, the trustee, all the top officials' pay raises. I mean, the director of elections, and it is no disrespect, Alan Farley was not in that position at that time. The position was vacant now. Think
Right.
about this. The position was empty. That position automatically got a pay raise. And you had 75 people, applicants wanting that job. I mean, a good businessman would say, you know what, let's relook at this. Can we get somebody qualified for $55,000?
You're right.
Can we take that other $20,000 and go put it in solid waste? Can we go put it over here at the guys that use an outhouse for a bathroom? You go give them guys a $100 bonus, that money is immediately spent in this community.
Sure.
But you know what? You know what's sad about that? All those folks had lobbyists. Lobbyists came to me fighting me.
Wow.
I was shocked, Gabriel. That's what hit me over the head and said, government really isn't for the people sometimes. They're not. And all those lobbyists come to me. And I remember one of them said, and I was, 7 years younger. He said, young man, you're fixing to undo what it took us 6 years to get accomplished up here. What they did, they bypassed the Democrat process at the county commission. The county commission should have had that authority to make that decision. So what they said, they want to take the politics out of it. No, let it be transparency. Let the county commission vote if this person needs a raise, if they don't need a raise. And it's a mandate. They force that mandate. Think about this. They pass a law, which is a mandate, forcing the locals to give those raises. That's a
and
mandate.
therefore forcing a future property tax.
Yes.
raise.
Well, this thing about it. This is the hypocrisy. All these people that talk about mandates, they never talk about that mandate. I run the bill. I had no support. My own party said it's going to hurt you politically. I said, brother, it ain't going to hurt me politically. One person gave me encouragement. That was Beth Harwell. She said, Mike, you got truth on your side. And I run the bill. We've got a video we're trying to make of it now. And the guy, people said I called Curry Todd, the chairman, a hypocrite. In the committee, it's supposed to be hypocritical. Well, ironically, Curry got arrested for violating his own bill 2 months later. He had a bill that said you can carry your gun if you're in Hooters, but you can't drink.
Right.
He was in Hooters, drinking Hooters and drinking,
Right.
and got arrested.
Yeah.
But that bill, say $2.6 million, all those people have lobbyists.
Off the bat.
Yes, it's a
and then
mandate.
countless amounts.
It's
later,
a mandate.
right.
Well, what it is, it's tied to the population growth.
Mhm.
But this is the thing about it. The growth, we're all working harder. Substitute teachers are working harder. Teachers are working harder. The guys at Dump are working harder. The clerk at McDonald's is working harder, dealing with growth.
Right.
I'm just saying that you're better off, in my opinion, instead of giving these school superintendents a $25,000 pay raise, like I seen in this county. I literally watched our school superintendent, not Don Odom. Don was my principal back in the day. I watched our school superintendent get a $25,000 pay raise, and we were going to laugh county employees. I was the only one to talk about it. It is
Sure.
lonely. It is lonely. That's the disconnect. Remember this word, disconnect. That's what goes on. There's a blatant disconnect. My logic is you take that $25,000, the guy that's at the bare minimum, you give him a bonus, a tithe and incentive. If he's doing a good job, you put the carrot on the stick approach. He's going to get a bonus if he maybe it's a great idea of how we encourage recycling, or we reduce recidivism, or we reduce truancy in the school system. You have ideas, you incentivize them. Okay, that's what I was talking about in my letter to Donald Trump. I was talking about private sector solutions, getting the universities involved, and just brainstorm some of these ideas. But you give them that little $100 bonus, or that little,
Which is a big
pay
deal
raise.
to a guy making minimum wage $10.
I mean, it is,
an hour,
and and that's not a blatant hard issue. That's a conservative issue.
I think it makes sense.
It
that.
does make sense. Well, I appreciate you. I forgot all about that. That you know about. But what you said, this is what was funny about that bill. You made a point. You said, Mike, you're not going to get invited to many country club events.
And you haven't, have you?
No, I don't. But you know what? Anybody listening right here, the food at the country club is terrible. Isn't it? I mean, seriously.
You talking about
Who
Stones
eats-
River?
All the
of
country
them?
clubs, the food is usually.
I don't know, man.
Let me tell you.
Yeah.
Let me tell you. My wife can outcook anything.
I have no doubt.
I'll
of that.
take pinto beans and gravy and fried squash any day of the week to bear them long green
That
beans.
floppy chicken
I mean,
and the
yeah,
green
what
beans.
the world?
You're right.
Anyways,
Yeah.
I don't.
Last
care
question about food. What's your favorite restaurant?
Omni Hut.
Omni Hut. All right.
The first job at 13 years
Opens
of age.
back up soon, right?
Yeah, they're open for lunch. Go see them. And you know what? The first person that will respond to you, the first two people that respond to you, I'll buy them lunch. I'll give them gift cards.
All right. Comment
First
in
two.
there. Let Mike know. He'll take them.
Yeah.
Can I come along?
I'll
buy my
pay for
own.
you.
I'll buy my
yours.
own.
I'll pay. But anyways, I got Major Walls that started was my mentor.
Okay.
I got named the road after him. About 3 miles. Major Walls really instilled a lot. He was in the Pacific. He was at Pearl Harbor when it was bombed.
Wow.
So I had two military guys that kind of drilled, lack of better term, that just drilled this stuff in me. But he was outside the box. But
Okay.
that's where 13 years of age.
Sure.
There. But he was a great guy. Great restaurant.
Thank you for coming on, Mike. I appreciate you taking time. I know we've wandered a lot here, man,
Yeah.
but I really feel like
Well, it's folks like you that bring awareness to things. And if folks need me, call me on my cell 525-3198. I've been told I'm the only elected official that will give out their cell number. I've given out on the Michael Journal Show, WGNS, 525-3198. And even if you don't
Shane Reeves gave his out on my
Oh, he
show
did?
too. Yeah.
Well, I like
He
him,
did.
Shane.
Yeah.
Shane just texted me this morning. Yeah, Shane's son, my professor at MTSU, he's a tennis court coach.
Okay.
They say Shane's son is one of the top 3 tennis players in the state.
Heck of a player. Yeah.
Have you watched him play?
No, but Shane told me that he beat him. That his son beat him at tennis many years ago. So.
Oh man,
That's all.
I hear he's going to be a rock star. But if folks need me, even if you disagree with me, call me, and I can promise you I'll always be there to listen. Okay.
Hey, I think JR said count me in.
All right.
Do you know JR Eastman?
Yeah, I know
He's one of the
JR.
guys. So
How's it
there you
going,
go.
JR?
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. Well, we'll end this. Thanks again, Mike.
Thank you.